Yeah, this is John Chenal with Vader TV back down on Sand Hill Road, and we're here lucky enough to run into Terry Opdendyk, one of the founding partners of Onset Ventures. Terry, welcome. You've been doing this 20 years. You guys are doing all kind of different investments over the years, had a lot of success, early stage company. Tell us right now, what are the type of companies that you guys are looking to fund?
Well, we fund in two areas, in medical technology and about 60% of our work in information technology. And in that area, we think there's a huge transformation, revolution, if you will, going on, where sort of the traditional technologies that we all invested in for 20 years are sort of dead. They have very low market values relative to their potential in the past, such as traditional enterprise software or even networking and computing. And in many ways, computing is now free, which is astonishing if you think about it. You can get access to hundreds of thousands or millions of computers in the cloud. And that's why enterprise software is also essentially being viewed as free and why people are not paying for it. And where the real value turns out to be in the data, in the information that one can extract from that. And it's why there's this tremendous value and interest in the value of what people are doing in the advertising and the ability to get information about people to better address their needs or to extract or retrieve that information. And that area is exploding. And so while we have almost this huge recession going on in most of the areas, there's this incredible revolution and resurgence going on in this new areas that, if you will, are all about data and information and getting value from that data. All the old traditional media companies realize that they have to have a piece of this online, and that is really fueling most of the acquisitions. And why some of those may not be leading edge or the next generation, there's going to be this continued rush of old and traditional companies having to buy more and more of the what looks like online advertising media companies. Some of those things that they're buying, I would say, are not revolutionary, but have established okay positions, and yet there's still value to the old companies that are buying them. And the way that people bought Blockbuster because they said, well, I've got to be in video, and now they realize, whoops, it's now online. I no longer want to own Blockbuster. There's a second aspect that says, what if you could change the way in which advertising information is given? I'll give you an example. Virtually all search and all placement of ads is done via keyword tags. You know, Google's got this massive project to get users to put keywords on millions and millions of photographs so that they can retrieve it. What if you could retrieve and get at information just by its content, just by its context of where it's at, without very rich context, without having to tag it? And because it's the way that you and I interact, we put all sorts of meaning and association with things, and that's how we retrieve things. So there's this entire new revolution that's going on that says, what if I could do things dramatically different? Most people don't realize today that Yahoo and Google are probably the best at placing ads or associating meaning and content with it, and they can only do it 50% of the time when you do a search. They can only place a relevant ad 50% of the time because they're dependent on tags. And what if they didn't have to be dependent on tags? That's just one example that if you could take a different step going forward, that you could really change and move ahead on a dramatic basis what we're doing today. And most of the acquisitions are not at that level yet. They're taking out the first or maybe the second generation of ad companies. It's this third generation that I think is where the real excitement is.
And what is that next step? What to be on keyword?
Well, without giving all of the
no, I know you guys are backing
family secrets away, certainly being able to do these things without keywords is one. But take another whole aspect and think about ubiquitous computing. If computers are free and they're getting from the traditional sense and from the whole new area of moats of computers about the size of your thumbnail, of which there are billions being produced, which have communications ability and sensors, and they're used in greenhouses and dropped out of airplanes in Iraq so that they can wake each other up and communicate when they hear something go by, or they're on the backs of firefighters in Chicago today. And if there are billions and billions of those, how do they communicate? How do you exchange the data? And then, oh my God, how do you process that data? One interesting factoid that I heard the other day, there are more video cameras doing online 24/7 security in the City of London than there are residents of the City of London. So the question is, how do you process, how do you analyze that information and that data? And it's not by storing things away and retrieving it as we did for 30 years. There's got to be a whole new way of how you look and analyze that. And that's related in some context, this ubiquitous computing and its needs, with the same notion of how do you associate or extract data of value from advertising or social networks or trying to retrieve research. It's all about analyzing, processing this data. And I think we've got a quantum leap in the amount of data and the throughput of that data, and we need a quantum leap in the way that we build companies to add value there.